Welcome back to the channel. It's Monday. It's worst of the week. And I was going to torment Doc with Astonishing Iceman #1, but after reading it, I was like, I cannot do that to Doc. He's an absolute jerk off, but he ain't that bad, you know what I mean? So I said, you know what? I'm going to torture him with some manga. We're going to review Spider-ManFake Red from Yusuke Asawa today, and Doc is going to be an absolute torment over this. How you doing, Doc?
I'm fine. I kind of like this.
You were the biggest anti-manga stancer in all of traditional comic books. You say you won't read the stuff, and then I try to torture you with it, and now you say that you liked it.
I'm saying I like this particular comic, manga by this particular creator. It was, I mean, there's some objections that I have to it, and there's some things that I didn't like about it, but story-wise, plot-wise, art-wise, I thought it was spectacular.
Well, fuck. Well, talk about your all-time backfires there. But this is the thing I like of it, because I really like this as well. I just put that one out there. I wasn't trying to torture myself. But there is so much show rather than tell in this comic book. It felt very refreshing. This is the best Spider-Man comic I've read since Chip Zdarsky was on Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. I don't even think the Nick Spencer stuff, which I thought was good, is as good as this.
Yes and no. I'd say that the Nick Spencer stuff was a little bit better than this. Definitely the Chip Zdarsky, at least from issue 6 of Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. The first 5 issues were fucking trash. It was probably on par with them. The only thing that didn't make it superior was the severe lack of actual Spider-Man in this comic book.
There is no Spider-Man, at least not yet.
Well,
We're not going to do the whole book. We're only doing chapters 1 and 1.5. Let's get into this bad boy and talk about some of the specifics. I must say the art in this is absolutely spectacular. It looks amazing. It is so energetic. It's got so much character to it when he's flying through the city, and the angle that you get on it is so badass. There's nothing that Marvel is doing that looks this cool right now, even though it's in black and white. I wish it was colored, but it looks absolutely amazing.
The art on this felt like a superhero comic. It doesn't feel like fucking Potato People or yet a 35th clone of, Stuart Immonen on this book. It looks like an actual superhero book, the kind of superhero book you and I grew up with, like a John Romita Sr., Steve Ditko, even like Mike Wieringo, very kind of simplistic, but really clearly superhero art. And it felt like I was actually reading a superhero comic.
You definitely get the manga faces, but when you see Spider-Man in uniform, he looks absolutely badass. And then the detail in the background, especially on that splash page, where you can see the city and all the windows and the little people and everything. Perfect stuff. If you're going to do a splash page, that's what it needs to look like.
This suffered from lack of color, in my opinion. I feel like you could have added so much more depth, but even then, they still managed to keep depth clear where your focus was supposed to be with just a pencil and ink, art style in this.
It was great that it wasn't digital art.
Exactly. You could tell they actually inked it. It's good superhero line art, and I liked it. I really did.
Let's get into the story, because it's not really about Peter Parker Spider-Man. Yes, he is there at the beginning to establish the character, but it's really about this character named Yu. It turns out that he's having some issues. He got into this prestigious school. Doesn't sound like it's going well for him. He's feels like he's a bit of an outcast at that school. And the only time he really feels like himself is when he goes to the climbing wall, and he kind of is pretending or feels like Spider-Man is with him because he really looks up to him. American comic book writers need to take notice of what happens in this comic book while he's explaining this. In the US comic book, he would have been at the cafeteria table in school telling his friend all of his problems. Here, he's expressing what his problems are, and you're getting moments of his life that are actually showing it to you as well. And you can really see the exasperation and the frustration on the face of the character, and kind of really discovering who he is rather than how he feels about himself through speech.
Well, not only that, but in the moments, the character moments of self-reflection, they still manage to put some degree of action in there with him engaging in something. And so you manage to create some feeling of stakes, establish that you care whether or not this character is injured or hurt, while at the same time learning the character, the deep character moments.
Absolutely. And it makes the character much more relatable and all that stuff. The author was very smart to put in very relatable characteristics about this whether it was be looking up to Spider-Man, being frustrated, trying to live up to his dad's reputation, not really being able to discover himself, but except for when he's doing this one thing that he really enjoys. So I thought that was really well done, just getting the character dynamics out really quick. And this is all done in just a couple of pages. And then we get to this moment. Obviously, he feels like an outcast. He looks up to Spider-Man. He's walking past an alley, and there's a kid being bullied, and there's two bullies there, and they're about to beat him up. And he's like, what should I do? He kind of freezes, and then he's like, well, if I were Spider-Man, I would go in there to try and save him. And at that moment, he kind of goes around the corner. He sees what's happening as this kid is being pummeled, and then he freezes and goes back and doesn't save the day, and kind of doesn't live up to Spider-Man, who he looks up to. And, you know, it's a clear failure on the part of the character.
Exactly. This is very clearly establishing kind of the hero's journey. You've established what his ideal is, and then you've established who he is. What you haven't established, and what this scene establishes very good, is how far away from that ideal, how far away from that level of bravery that he looks up to, that he wants to have. How far away this character really is. He's not already perfect before the story starts, and he just needs the world to realize that he's already perfect. He's not. He's a bit of a coward.
And there's a moment when it's over, the beating is given, and the little kid that gets pummeled is walking out of the alley. He's still standing there, and he apologizes, and he said, don't worry, I didn't expect much. Saying, once I realized it was you, I knew that you weren't going to step in. And that moment kind of haunts him, even really early on in this, and kind of pushes the character forward. As that's happening, the kid walks away. He discovers in that alleyway, which kind of felt like a throwback, obviously, to Spider-Man No More, or whatever that moment is, there's a Spider-Man costume there. And he thinks, why would someone throw out this Halloween costume? Then he starts going, well, the material's really good. This looks really nice. Is this like a professional costume? He ends up taking it back to his house, and there's a web shooter on, and he's like, is this the real Spider-Man costume? What's going on here? And then another very real moment. If you get the Spider-Man costume, you're going to start shooting webs, you're going to be doing selfies, and see that this bad boy fits.
He's trying to get the look. He's trying to think that maybe if I'm looking at myself, I could feel like who he is and be better than who I am. So he does all that, the kind of childish, take my selfies, shoot the web shooters. I'm going to go up to the roof and see how it looks to see the city from this.
That's a mistake, Doc.
Exactly.
Because it turns out when he goes up to the roof in costume, he looks exactly like Spider-Man. As far as everyone knows, that is the real Spider-Man. Turns out there's a fire not too far away. People realize there's kids in the building. They see up and they go, hey, there's Spider-Man. Spider-Man, save us. We need your help, please. And then he realizes, I've really messed up here because I have no superpowers. I can't actually swing over to that building and save people, but they believe I'm Spider-Man. By putting on the uniform, maybe I've taken on a bit of responsibility with that. And he doesn't just all of a sudden shoot the web swingers and make it over there. He goes down the building and runs over as people are going, Spider-Man's running? And it was a really great moment. I thought it was amazing.
Exactly. You realize how far away he is from who he wants to be. He doesn't have powers and thinks, okay, well, maybe I can help. He gets a little bit of confidence from wearing the suit, but at the same time, he's also going through this inner turmoil of, I can't just like run away and hide because then I'm ruining Spider-Man's reputation, and that's my idol.
So we get this great moment where he's running through the city and he gets there. The fire is absolutely huge, and people are expecting him to go in there, but he's got no powers. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He's fumbling his way through. He's choking on smoke and all this stuff, but he does accidentally, in spite of himself and not knowing what he was doing, he does discover a child in there, and he says, oh my goodness, I'm going to save this kid. He picks him up, and as he's trying to exit the building, he's being overtaken with smoke inhalation, and he's about to die, along with this kid along the way, because he's not a superhero yet. And he has taken on more than he could chew at this point, but it establishes that, one, he's not competent. He does not know what he's doing, but he can be heroic if he really needs to be, especially when he's in that Spider-Man costume.
While he's trying to climb up, he's like trying to free climb up the side of this building by using the balconies and everything. And he gets to a point where this is where he normally would have fallen, like when he was like earlier in like the first issue, he falls at some point because he does fail and he pushes himself beyond it. And he's like, I don't have the option to fail now. If I fall, I'm fucking dead. And so is this kid. I need to be able to make this climb. Putting that pressure on himself gives him the ability to go beyond what he'd other previously been capable of, but he still doesn't make him like all of a sudden he beats that one challenge and he's a full-fledged superhero. No, he just gets to the next challenge, which is the smoke and trying to be able to carry this kid out, while choking on smoke and the fire coming up and taking out the one exit that he did have that he knew about. And he tries to find another exit. And now he's in a no-win situation with a kid hanging from him that's relying on him to save him. It's really, really impactful storytelling. Current Marvel Comics doesn't know how to fucking do any of this, but it's really, really good.
Yeah, I came away from this absolutely blown away. Obviously, this isn't Peter Parker Spider-Man. This is another character, Fake Red, taking on the Spider-Man mantle. I imagine we're about to find out that Spider-Man's gone missing after he survives this. I don't think he's going to die because I do believe the story goes on. But he's certainly failed a couple of times, but he's also succeeded a couple of times. And they've established the baseline of the character, who he is, where he's at, what he's not capable of, and then him challenging himself to become a better person, a better hero, doing things that he knows he shouldn't do because he feels that responsibility. And as I said, that moment where that kid got beat up almost becomes, it kind of feels like that Uncle Ben moment where he's thinking in his mind, I can't do this. And then he remembers the kid going, don't worry, I didn't expect much from you.
Exactly. And him trying to change that perception, both in himself and from other people. He wants people to have high expectations for him. And he realizes how much the world sees him as kind of a cowardly loser. And he wants to change that. And it's really, really good storytelling. It's that the impetus for the hero's journey.
I will say this, Doc, this is as excited as I've heard you talk about a specific comic book issue since probably House of X Powers of 10. I'm glad that you enjoyed this. I thought you would hate it because it's manga. It turns out you do like Spider-Man, even if it's a new character taking on the role and the responsibility, but he's going through that hero's journey. Are you done with Spider-Man-Fake Red, or are you going to keep reading on?
No, I am absolutely going to keep reading on. I'm probably going to go pick it up in physical format this week. There was a couple of things that I didn't like about it. Like there was some storytelling things, but I feel like the more I read it, maybe it'll make better sense. Because a lot of times I had to read the same page 3-4 times to figure out what the hell the panel flow was. Because some pages
I had backwards for the most part.
Yeah, but some pages I had to read from right to left, both in the panel flow and the word bubbles. But in another page, it's right to left. Sometimes it's kind of start in the middle and work your way out. It was really weird. The panel flow was a big problem in it, at least for me as a North American comic reader.
It'll probably be a little bit better if you actually have the book and it's in physical form rather than digital.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I hate digital, and I'm not a big fan of reading right to left and an unclear panel flow. But if I take out one of those problems, maybe the other ones improve or become less of a hindrance for me. But yeah, you know what? This is probably, even though it's not, Peter Parker Spider-Man, it's probably the best Spider-Man I've read in a while. And hey, Marvel, if you want to put somebody other than Peter in the suit, this is how you do it.
I definitely echo Doc's sentiments at the end of this one. Definitely one of the best Spider-Man comics I've read in a very long time. And this isn't brand new. It's been out for a little while, but it is still a newish series. And if you're looking for some great Spider-Man, definitely check this one out. If you're looking for some bad Spider-Man, definitely read Zeb Wells' current Amazing Spider-Man run. If you need an example of just how bad and stupid and how much he's lost the plot on his own comic book, definitely check this video out right here. There's also a link in the video description.